I am so sorry. I know it's been a while since my last video, but I got so sick. Nothing serious. It was just a cold, but it was like the worst cold I have ever had in my life. My voice was cracked. You could barely hear me speaking. There was just no way that I could make quality videos in that state. But I'm all better now for the most part. I still have a slight cough, but I can edit that out if need be. And I am ready to get back into it. We are so close to the end of this book, and I'm so excited because we can start on book 2 and really take your Japanese to the next level. So without further ado, let's get started. In the last lesson, we talked about the days of the months as well as the names of the month. Now we're going to add some time words, namely last, this, and next. Let's start with week. So the word week in Japanese is shu. Shu. To make it last week, we can add sen. Senshu. Senshu. That's going to be last week. Then this week, konshu. Konshu. Then next week is raishu. Raishu. Next week. Month is going to follow that same pattern. If you remember from last week, whenever we are talking about time, we're going to use getsu instead of gatsu. Gatsu is only used for the name of the month. So when we're counting months or using time words, we're going to use getsu. So it's going to have the exact same pattern, sengetsu, right? Sengetsu, last month. Kongetsu, this month. Raigetsu, next month. For some reason, the two that are in red decided that they needed to be different. They don't want to follow the rules. Rules don't apply to them. They're too cool for that. So we do have, thankfully, this one. At the very least, it has the word year, and it's nen, right? We have nen over here, rai nen. That one is the same. That one follows the pattern. It makes me irrationally angry that these other two words don't follow the pattern, especially because this one is kyonen, kyonen, for last month, because the word kyo is today. So in my brain, when I hear kyonen, I really want that to be this year, but it's not. It's last year. Instead, let's go to the word this year, which is kotoshi. Kotoshi. At the very least, it has the ko, so it follows the ko pattern anyway. Kon, konshu, kongetsu, ko, kotoshi. It's not konen or konen. Possibly because that's a little hard to say now that I'm thinking about it. Konen. It's not too bad. I don't know. Maybe that's why. I'm not really sure. Don't let it confuse you. If you look at the kanji for kyonen, you'll see that it literally means past year, like the year that has left. We've left it behind. It's in the past. So don't get it confused with kyo, meaning today. It is irregular, and I'm sorry. Unfortunately, not everything is always easy. There are little nuances like this. I'm sure there's probably a historical reason for why it is like this, but I don't know what it is. If you do, feel free to leave a comment below. Anyway, kyonen is last year, kotoshi is this year, and rainen is next year. Then we have these two words at the bottom that we do actually have these words in English, but like nobody knows them, and they're never used. I have heard them before, but off the top of my head, I cannot remember what they are. I probably could Google it, but who's got time for that? But these words are used in Japanese regularly. So whereas in English, we would just say the day before yesterday, in Japanese, you can call it ototoi. Then the day after tomorrow is going to be asatte. Notice the little tsu here. We have to pause after the sa, asatte, right? There's a pause there. Last time we talked about the months of the year, so now let's talk about the days of the week. we are going to ignore the Sailor Scouts for just a moment. First, let's go through each of the names. One thing I need to point out is that the Japanese days of the week start with Monday, whereas in English we start with Sunday. Although, do we really start with Sunday? Like calendars have Sunday as the first day of the week, but everyone considers Monday the first day of like the work week. And then Saturday and Sunday are like the weekend, right? Those are the days that we have off from work generally. So like we say that Sunday is the first day of the week, but we act like it's Monday. Monday is the true first day of the week. I really think that the only reason Sunday is the first day of the week in English is because Saturday and Sunday both start with an S, and a lot of calendars just have the first letter listed on the box, and they thought it would be confusing maybe. So they separated them, put Sunday first, Saturday last. I really think that's the only reason, but I don't know. Anyway, in Japanese, Monday is the first day of the week. So starting with Monday, we have Getsuyobi. Tuesday, Kayobi. Wednesday, Suiyobi. Thursday, Mokuyobi. And Friday, Kinyobi. Now, you might be wondering where the other 2 days of the week are. We'll get to that in just a second. You might also be wondering why the Sailor Scouts are here. Let me tell you. Lots of languages have named their days after the sun and moon, and then 5 of the planets. Japanese follows this pattern. It was started by the Romans. The Romans did it. Japan did it. Lots of languages do this. You'll see this pattern regularly. So let's look over here at the kanji characters. If you look here, we have Getsu. Getsu is moon, right? Monday. The reason why the leader of the Sailor Scouts, Queen Serenity, she is the moon. She's the first day of the week. Then if you look at Tuesday, you'll see that this is the kanji for fire. Kayobi is fire day, which is Mars, Sailor Mars. Then we have Wednesday, which is water day. This is Mercury, Sailor Mercury. Then we have Mokuyobi, which is actually tree day. But this is Jupiter. This is most likely the reason why she is green. The lightning powers probably are from the fact that Jupiter, the planet, has lots of thunderstorms. So her powers actually come from the planet as opposed to the name of the planet, but her color comes from the color of a tree. She has brown hair like the trunk of a tree, and she wears green clothes like the tree's leaves. So she's an upside down tree, essentially. But her powers are not plant-based. Her powers come from Jupiter, the planet, instead. Then we have Friday, which means gold. Friday is gold day, which is why Sailor Venus has the gold heart chain that she uses as her attack, right? She's gold. That's Venus. Just for bonus knowledge, in case you're curious, to make the names of the planets, you're going to take these exact same kanji and you're going to add sei. The word planet is sei. So if I wanted to say Venus, I would take kin meaning gold, right? Kinsei would be Venus, or mokusei would be Jupiter. You don't need to remember that right now. That's just a fun fact. But yes, this is the reason why these planets were chosen to be the ones on the 5 inner senshi, because they're the first 5 days of the week. It has nothing to do with them being inner planets, because Jupiter is not an inner planet, it's an outer planet, but she's included because she is Thursday. That is the reason why Sailor Moon is the leader, and those are her 4 followers. Now, let's get to the 2 missing days, which are Saturday and Sunday. Sailor Saturn is Saturday, Doyobi, meaning Earth Day or Soil Day. Makes sense considering her powers. Sunday does not have a Sailor Scout, unfortunately. You could potentially say that Helios represents the sun. Sunday is literally the same as it is in English, right? It's literally Sunday. It's Nichi, which is one reading of the word sun. The kanji for sun is right here. So Nichiyobi, Sunday. Literally Sunday. So it's actually the same. Now, unlike in English, Japanese years can only be read one way. We cannot divide the numbers the same way that we do in English. For example, in English, if we were to see this year right here, we would probably read this as 2015. But you cannot do that in Japanese. You cannot split the number that way. You must read the entire year. So this one here, we cannot say 1994. We can't do that. We have to say the entire year. So sen being 1000, sen, 900, 900, 90, 90, yon nen, 4 year, right? So it's the year, nen is year, the year 1994. That is how we must read years in Japanese. It takes some getting used to because it's really long, but you'll get used to it after a little while, I promise. Now, another thing that is different between Japanese and English is that when you give dates in Japanese, you have to go from biggest to smallest. This is actually really normal, honestly. Lots of languages will either do it this way, they'll go from big to small, or they'll flip it and they'll go from small to big, and they'll do day first, then month, and then year. But for some reason, I think it's specifically America. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you are from Britain, let me know. Pretty sure in Britain, even though they also speak English, I'm pretty sure they go from day, they do day, month, year, I think. Right? Is that right? It's America that's weird. We are weird. We are so weird in America. Why? Why are we weird? I don't understand. In America, we do month first, then day, then year, right? If I look at the bottom of my computer, it says that today is December 17th, 2022. Why? Why do we do that? I don't know. But in Japanese, that's not how they do it. They do the year first, right? So if I wanted to say today's date, I would have to put 2022 first, 2022, then the month, December, then the day, 17. This is really important to know, especially when you're like filling out your birthday for things or trying to write the date on things in Japanese. You need to know this because you will really mess things up if you don't. So year first, then month, then day. Biggest to smallest. Let's practice. If I wanted to say October 1st, 1995 in Japanese, how would I say that? Pause the video and think about it. It's a tough one. You can do it. Remember, year has to go first. Remember, we cannot say 1995. Sen, 1000. Right, sen, 900, 95, nen, that's the year. Then we have the month, Jugatsu, because it's the name of the month, right? Not Getsu, but Gatsu, Jugatsu. And it's the first of the month. And remember that that's a special day. So it's Tsuitachi, Tsuitachi. Let's try another one. This time we have February 13th, 2023. What do you think? We have to do the year first. This time it's 2000. So what can we say? Nisen, right? Nisen, 2000. 23 nen. Notice that there is no hyaku, right? Because our hyaku is 0. So we don't need to include it. We can skip it. We go straight to the next number. 23 nen. That's our year. Then what month is it? 2月. This is a normal day, so we say 13日. Let's do one more. This time we have November 20th, 2022. Remember that the 20th is also a special day, so it has a special name. Do you remember what it is? Pause if you need to think. Ready? 2022年11月20日. Right? The 20th is 20日. The possessive particle no is used when connecting dates to sequencers like next, this, last, etc. It is kind of like saying this week's Monday. But when we translate it, we use of instead. So here I have the sequencer plus no plus the date, right? Raishu, that's our sequencer, right? Raishu, that's next week. Raishu no getsuyobi. This is Monday of next week. That is how we would translate it. We would translate it as Monday of next week. But let me tell you something. One of the biggest mistakes that language learners of any language, not just Japanese, but language learners make, they try to translate in their head before they say anything. So you hear a phrase, you translate it into your native language, and then you have to think of your response in your native language and then translate that into the language you want to say, right? That is what most people do. It's normal to do this in the beginning. It takes a lot of practice, but you cannot keep that as a habit. It's okay in the very beginning because you don't know a whole lot of words yet. You're still getting used to the patterns and the sentence structures. It's okay. But you need to break the habit. You can't do that. It takes way too long. The processing time, by the time you have a response ready, the person that you're talking to is like, oh, this person is checked out. Like they're in their own world. Like you can't wait 5 minutes to give your response. You need to do it in seconds, right? You need to respond immediately. One of the easiest ways to overcome this is to translate literally. Think in the language you're trying to learn. Think in Japanese. Yes, it sounds weird in English. When I see this, I see raishu, which is next week. I see the possessive particle, and I see Monday. So when I read this, I see next week's Monday. That sounds weird in English. It does. It 100% does. And if you're translating, if someone asks you, what does this mean? You shouldn't say that, right? If you get paid to do a translating job, you shouldn't say that. You should say Monday of next week. But in your head, it's totally fine to say that. It is 100% fine to think in Japanese. Think like a Japanese person because that is what this sentence says. It says next week's Monday. Translate it literally. If you do that, it will save you a lot of time. And it will get you used to the patterns that you see in Japanese. It will get you used to the way that they set up their sentences so that when you start learning longer and more complex sentences, you're able to understand them verbatim instead of having to pick them apart and rearrange the words. And it's tricky business. Again, it's different for translating. When you translate, you need to make sure that it makes sense and that it translates well into the other language. That means changing words around or rearranging things. But in your head, read it for what it is. Read it literally. It will help you. It will help you to translate faster. It will help you to respond faster. And it will help you understand how Japanese people think. And honestly, it will help you to understand when you're speaking to a Japanese person and they make English mistakes. You'll understand where those English mistakes come from because you'll have a better understanding of how they think in Japanese. Now, the next one is a little bit different. We do still have a sequencer, right? We have sen getsu being last month. Then no, so last month's. But then we have yoka. Yoka. This is not a day of the week, but it is a day of the month. Do you remember which one? I'll give you a hint. It's either the 4th or it's the 8th. Do you know which one? Remember that the 4th is shorter and the 8th is longer because 8 is bigger than 4, right? Yoka is the 8th. So this is the 8th of last month, right? When did you go on vacation? Oh, it was the 8th of last month. I went on the 8th of last month. But again, in your head, you can say it as last month's 8th day, right? Last month's 8th day. Okay, let's do a little reading practice. Take a minute and read this date. What does it say? What does this mean? Kyonen. What is kyonen? Is that this year? Is it? No, it's last year. Remember, it tries to trick you. Kyonen, last year. No. San gatsu. That's important. San gatsu. March of last year, right? Last year's March. Okay, let's try another one. This one's a long one. What's this one? 1842年8月3日. Now, the good thing about Japanese numbers is you can just literally go through one by one. So, sen is 1,000. 800, that's going to be 800. 40 is 40. Ni is 2. Nen, that's the year, right? Then, hachigatsu, hachi is 8, right? The 8th month, so August, right? The 8th month is August. And then Mitsuka. Mitsuka is one of the special days, but it is the 3rd. So remember, Japanese goes big to small, so this would be August 3rd of 1842. Okay, here's another one. 今週の火曜日. 今週, what's that? 今 is this. 週 is week. の makes it possessive. 火曜日. Ka is fire. It's the fire day. That's Tuesday. 火曜日. Tuesday. Tuesday of this week. Okay, we are going to learn the last set of hiragana. You should be so proud. You can now go to Hot Topic and read all of the shirts. So let's get started. We have in order da, ri, ru, de, and ro. Da, ri, ru, de, ro. Now, before we get started looking at these pictures, let's talk about the pronunciation of this a little bit. This is not ra, ri, ru, re, and ro. This is kind of a mix between an R sound and an L sound. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I've got the pronunciation of this perfected, because I absolutely do not. But I can, at the very least, explain how you are supposed to make this sound. So, It is a combination of an R and an L. This is the reason why it is very difficult for a Japanese learner of English to hear the difference between R's and L's. To them, it sounds the same. The word red and lead, they don't hear a difference. We can because our ears have been trained to hear it. They cannot. The reverse of this is true with they can hear like the little tsu, whereas some English speakers have a hard time with it, right? Same thing. It is a combination of these two letters. So if we want to mimic this sound, what you're going to do is you're going to start with the L sound. You're going to go la, 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 la. Now, notice how when you do that, do it really slow. La. What happens to your tongue? It needs to touch the top of your mouth, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to put your tongue at the top of your mouth as if you're going to say la again, right? La, 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 right? But don't say la instead. So put your tongue there. Now, with your tongue up, touching your mouth, you are going to try to make the R sound. You're going to fail because you cannot make the R sound with your tongue. The sound that will come out will instead be the Japanese R. It almost sounds like a D. So kind of listen for that to know if you're doing it right, but here, ready, watch. La, 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 da, 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 right? Da, di, do, de, ro. Da, di, do, de, ro. Did you hear the difference? It almost sounds like a D, but you make it by combining this mouth position with this sound. That is how you get the Japanese R. It takes some practice, and I still have a really hard time with the compound sounds like this one, right? These are hard. They're so hard. I can't do them. They're difficult. It takes practice, and it hurts me because this and this, actually, they are both very popular names for Japanese boys, and I can't pronounce them to save my life. They're so hard. Ryu. I really want to say Ryu. I can do that. Ryu. But to go Ryu. Oh, it's hard. Doing that R to that Y is very difficult to do. It takes practice. But don't stress about it too much. No matter what, unless you were born and raised in Japan from a very young age, you're going to have at least a slight accent. This is why people have accents, because there are sounds that exist in languages that don't exist in other languages. You're going to have an accent more than likely, no matter how hard you fight against it, but you can reduce your accent. You can improve it with practice, with drills. It will get better. It's not the end of the world, but don't stress about it too much. It's not the most important part of learning a language. Being able to speak it and communicate, that's the important part. That is what our goal is ultimately, is to be able to communicate effectively in Japanese. So if your pronunciation isn't the best, it's okay. That will come with time. That will come with practice, but it's not the end all be all. That looks like a rabbit. Actually, it looks like the number 5. And I don't know, I can't make a connection to that. I cannot think of a way to connect the letters RA to the number 5, no matter how hard I try. But for whatever reason, I can just remember it. I know that that is the number 5. I don't know. I just do. But if you cannot, if you cannot remember that, you can remember it as being a rabbit instead. Then ri is a pair of reeds, right? These are 2 reeds flowing in the wind. Ru. I remembered ru as being a root, right? It has a root with a little curlicue, right? Roots are not straight. They usually curl and twist. And that's how I remember this. This picture shows a different type of root. It is a root also, but it's a route you would take maybe to go on a road trip. A different kind of route, but same thing. It is different from this one. Look, they are very, very similar. This one has a curly Q, and this one does not. We are going to look at those a little more closely here in a second. The picture I have here for that is just the letter R, like it is colored red, like a red letter. That works fine. I actually remembered it as being like a fishing pole, and it's a reel, like you're reeling in a fish. But the color red probably works better because the pronunciation is more similar, right? That red, right? It has the same eh sound. So if you can remember red letter R, you can remember that. And then ro is a rock rolling down a mountain, it looks like. It looks like the number 3. So that is the number 5 and ro is the number 3. As always, let's quickly practice writing them. That is pretty straightforward. It is drawn pretty much the same way that the number 5 is drawn, except this part is more slanted. It's not straight. Forgive me, the sun has decided to come up. Let's do it again. There we go. That. D is pretty straightforward. It's just 2 little lines like this. Forgive my mouse. I really need to clean it. There we go. D. Then we have do, which looks like the number 3. And then it's got a curly Q. It's kind of a sharp zigzag here, whereas R3 would normally be a little bit more rounded. And then the round part is here at the bottom with the curly Q, just like that. Then we have that, which has our body, our fishing line, or if you're looking for the letter R, the red letter, that's fine too. So draw one more time. Here's the body. Zoo, zoo. There you go. That. And the last one is just the number 3 without the loop-de-loop. Roll. 1, 2, and bam. There we go. Roll. Now, you have officially learned all of the hiragana. So let's look a little bit closer at these 6 pairs because they look very similar. Now, first up, we have chi and sa, right? They are literally reverse of each other. Then we have nu and me. Nu, remember, is a noodle. And me is an eye, right? Me, your eye. Then we have the one that we just learned, re, with ne and re. Ne is a net. Re is reeling in a fish. You gotta reel in your fish. This one has a net. They're both fishermen, but this one has a net, and this one has a fishing hook. Same thing with ru and ro. Remember that ru is a root, right? It has a root growing on it. It has a little curly Q. Ro does not. Then we have ha and ho. They're only different because this one has one extra line. So think of this one as being a happy face, ha 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 ha. And this one's an angry face, ho 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 ho. Then we have ri and I, which are also kind of backwards, but not exactly backwards. And this character in particular is difficult because sometimes it's written like this, where it looks like an ear, right? It looks like the side of an ear. Usually I think with handwriting, you usually will write it like this, but on the computer text, it will usually be connected. They will add a line like right here. They'll go like that and connect it. If it's like this, then it's easy to tell. But if you write it the traditional way, which is just a line like this, right? It does look similar to I, which is kind of opposite, but ri is a lot more straight and I is kind of bubbly and fat. It's got more curve to it. This one and this one, you're gonna have to just memorize them. It is difficult. The little mnemonic tricks, like with the pictograms, those are gonna help you with the other 4, but these 2 are a little hard. So I do recommend, if you have a flashcard app or something like that, add these pairs to that flashcard app and practice them, study them, because it is a little bit difficult. It does take time to master them. So don't feel bad if you're having trouble. Just study them. You're gonna have to do some drill work with these 6 sets. And with that, you are all done. You have learned all of the hiragana. You should be so proud. I was going to go ahead and record the next video, but the sun is just glaring. So I think I'm gonna have to wait until another day. I do apologize. I will try to record the next one as soon as I can. It is completed. I just gotta throw on some makeup and record it. But here's your homework. Take a picture. We are all done. I promise I won't take a long break like I did this past week. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.